Okay, so with the help of my friend Mr. Wayland, I went ahead and tested some hyper armor theories out, and the results were about what I expected. Now keep in mind, I am not like a fucking turbo nerd. I'm a functioning, fucking retarded person, so barely functioning. So I'm not gonna. I don't have numbers. All I can bring to you are statements like Kirkhammer is a beast. Pretty vague shit. Pardon the microphone. This is just a shitty little headset mic. But yeah. Okay. Now, just to sort of show it off even more, I want you to hyper armor through it and then hit me with another R1. Beautiful. Beautiful. So what you're seeing here is I'm attempting to break hyper armor with the threaded cane, which the threaded cane or the blade of mercy. I'm guessing these will be the weapons that have the smallest amount of hyper armor damage value. Does that you follow me? I'm assuming these small fast weapons will have the least amount of poise damage to their attacks. Yep. Now I want you to charge the R2. Beautiful. Now, as these tests run on, you'll start to see us test different stuff, like could he swing out of R1 spam? Could he hyper armor through it? And one thing that I've found is the way that targeting and auto lock works on this game is after so much R1 spam, you almost knock your opponent out of a hittable range, as you just saw right there. And that happens fairly frequently, almost like it was a design choice. You're going to see me trying to interrupt different attacks. What this basically comes down to is the R1s and the L2s on the Kirkhammer are just fucking beasts when it comes to fighting smaller weapons. One more time. Nice! Nice. So I saw the damage pop up on my screen. So yeah, you totally hyper armored through that. Okay. So now I want you to press L2. Do 3 L2s in a row. Press L2 3 times. Okay. So here's my theory. I think you're rewarded for doing 2 R2s and L2s by being given a faster move with more hyper armor at the end of it. That's my theory. So like, well, this is a bad example. Let me try it transformed. This motherfucker doesn't even charge. Oh shit, sorry. Here. This I know does it. Okay, so if I press R2 and then press it again, it's just the same attack, right? If I charge it, I get a follow-up. Now my theory is that the hyper armor on that second R2 is probably gonna start very, very quickly. But the thing about Ludwig's is it goes beyond that. With the L2s, it goes into like 4 hits, I think. Yeah. The L2 has 4. So what I'm thinking is going to happen is we're going to see slow hyper armor, fast hyper armor, super fast hyper armor. That's my expectation. So go back to the hammer. All right. And I want you to just throw out L2s. Just keep throwing them out. Yep. Yep. That's exactly what I was expecting to see. Each L2 is probably going to get subsequent faster hyper armor, sort of like Hollow Slayer, sort of how Hollow Slayer works. All right, let's try it again. I'm going to try and interrupt you after the first one. Go ahead. Ooh. So I can absolutely interrupt that one. Try it again. Yep. See, the hyper armor is there on the second L2. The hyper armor is definitely there. It's just, it starts up still pretty slow. Now let's do that third L2 again and compare how much hyper armor you have from the beginning of it. Go ahead. Oh, not as early as I thought. But still pretty early. Still pretty early. Okay, so right around here I start playing around with different weapons against the Kirk hammer. Went to the Blade of Mercy first. I was also expecting that to be a pretty low hyper armor damage modifier type weapon, if any of that makes sense. But to try something a little more interesting, I just wanted to see if the Blade of Mercy R1 could out-spam the hyper armor once it had gotten started, so that became sort of our go-to thing. Just trying to poise through, like R1 spam from a tiny small weapon. I was curious if it could do that, and the answer is yes, it absolutely can. Get your stamina back, and then just start mashing R1 relentlessly. Look at that. Look at that. That's good shit. Alright, now let's do L2. Oh, sorry. L2s. You might have heard me mention the Hollow Slayer earlier, and what I mean is, in Dark Souls 3, every subsequent R1 from the Hollow Slayer, the hyper armor starts up faster. Now, because Dark Souls 3 has a better netcode than Bloodborne, it's much easier to find the little moments where a straight sword or something small like that, a Corvian Great Knife, where that can interrupt hyper armor. There are those frame perfect interruptions you can do that are fairly simple in Dark Souls 3, a little more difficult in Bloodborne due to the nature of the netcode as well as the speed of the game. That's pretty overall much in line with what I was expecting to see. Alright, let's try it again. Okay, so the Saw Cleaver is closer to the Blades of Mercy. Alright, give me L2s. You see, my thinking is, there are so few weapons in Bloodborne that each one probably behaves in its own way. I'm sure there are similarities between them, obviously. Ludwig's and Kirkhammer both being just straight swords. But I expect each weapon to be more unique than, say, their Dark Souls counterparts, where in Dark Souls, all greatswords pretty much behave the same way. All katanas pretty much behave the same way, and on down the line. If a horizontal swinging greatsword A can be interrupted, at that frame perfect moment, Ultra Greatsword B that swings horizontally is also going to, behave the same way. Whereas Bloodborne, each weapon is so different that I expected each one to behave differently. And yeah, sure, there are going to be similarities, and maybe some that even have the same sort of hyper armor damage modifier, poise damage modifier. They might even share those in some situations, but I think that on the whole, the weapons being so much different, is going to play a part in how they behave when they go up against hyper armor. Here again is another example you can see of Bloodborne's, I don't know what to call this, it's almost like it loses tracking on purpose, as you can see right there. It's like it doesn't want you to just spam an attack and win, against another player. The tracking always puts you off just a little bit. Okay, now obviously this is already fucking 10 minutes long. I recorded 35 minutes worth of stuff. I'm probably going to go through and just edit from this point on and just show a few clips, just to give you guys some ideas. But like I said, I'm not good at this kind of content. I'm not good at creating this kind of content. I'm not good at figuring out how to like test things. I don't know how to have like, my fucking base and then my variables. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a scientist. I'm a guy who talks funny and likes to play Dark Souls. That's my thing. So I all I really seriously hope that people get out of this is maybe some basic idea of how I think this works. And again, I'm not saying this is how it works. This is just my theory. But this is how hyper armor behaves as I would expect it to, based off the knowledge of Dark Souls 3 hyper armor and the weapon variety. Like I'm saying, being what it is, each weapon sort of behaves differently in the face of hyper armor. And you can kind of tell just based off of a weapon's size or its base AR, like, okay, I bet this would be pretty good at interrupting hyper armor. Now, sometimes it might surprise you. You might not get what you expected. In the case of the Saw Cleaver, I expected it to just tear hyper armor in half, and it doesn't. Um, even transformed, it didn't really. The axe was the same way. But again, this goes back to my super scientific finding that the Kirk hammer is a goddamn beast. I know that's not very scientific, but that's the best I can come up with. Anyway, what I'm probably going to do, like I said, is just kind of clip some fun, notable parts from this, and I really hope that somebody sees this and gets interested enough to like really dig into it. Somebody smarter than I am, who knows how to test this stuff seriously, because I can't. I just it's beyond me. I would have to like sit down and make out a fucking table. It would take me forever to figure out how to properly test this. Again, there are frame perfect interruptions. Just good luck getting them with this game's netcode and the speed of how this game works. I think you're much more likely to break hyper armor by just mashing R1 into it. The problem is you can't mash R1 into it with a weapon that is super weak, a super small weapon, because I just don't think it's going to work. I don't think this game has the 30-second poise reset health. It might, but I don't think it does. The invisible poise health bar that Dark Souls 3 has, which resets to full after 30 seconds of not being hit, or it resets to full once hyper armor has been broken, or it resets back to 80 every time you initiate hyper armor. I don't think this game has that, though if it did, I would not be too far surprised. Beast Cutter is an excellent hyper armor beater, even untransformed. Beast Cutter did work. So if you're looking for something to go up against hyper armor that's still compact and smaller, I think Beast Cutter's your option there. It's a little slower, as you can see, but I still think it's a good choice if you want to go up against something that's big and unwieldy. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. The rest of the commentary that you hear will be live commentary as we were just doing this stuff. But I'm going to try and trim it down to a reasonable size, maybe 20 minutes if I'm lucky. Sorry for the long video, but I hope this sparks some interest in some people. So thank you guys very much for watching. I appreciate it, and also thank you very much to Mr. Wayland for helping out with this. Greatly appreciated. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Later, y'all. All right, try it again. I'm gonna start hitting you on the. I'm gonna try and hit you out of the third one. Go ahead. Yep, that's about what I expected. That third L2 has really quick hyper armor. All right, now I'm gonna try and interrupt the fourth L2. I don't suspect I'll be able to. Go ahead. Yeah. All right, try it again. That will, okay. So that'll get you out of it. But that also did enough poise damage that it stopped the Kirkhammer, which we've seen is a pretty poisey weapon. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Give me a fully charged R2 and a follow-up R2. Yeah, that's that good shit right there. All right, do that again. I'm gonna get a heavier weapon. Go ahead. Nice, nice. All right, do it again. Nice. So there's probably an absolute ton of poise damage on a fully charged R2. Go ahead, and that's what I would expect with PvE working the way it does. Go ahead. God damn. Yeah, get it, I guess. Go ahead, do it again. God damn! No shit! That was impressive. Okay. I am not a math nerd. YouTube. I'm not a math nerd. I'm not good at numbers and shit. But this was my theory, okay? That each weapon is going to have an amount of poise damage. I'm going to call it poise damage. Each weapon is going to have an amount of poise damage on it. And if you exceed the amount of hyper armor on any given attack, you'll break its poise. My assumption coming into this was that the threaded cane would be the weakest hyper armor damage. I assumed the threaded cane with its moveset, I assumed it would have the smallest amount of hyper armor damage. Blades of Mercy would come in at a, maybe second place, or maybe they're tied, or you know what I mean, but that was my assumption. We're all operating under my assumptions here, okay? I would love it if someone followed up on this and maybe had like a better method of testing things than I did. But I do think that this played out about as well as I thought it would. Nine. 25. That's fucking sweet spot damage. I'll be goddamned.